Hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Candy Graham and I am an engagement officer in the Border Target Operating Models engagement team at DEFRA. And today's webinar is an information session about the introduction of the new CHED Part 1 import notification for high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin via the EU to Great Britain. This information session will cover a brief overview of the border TOM changes for importing high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin via the EU and EFTA states into Great Britain. It will also cover an introduction to the CHED D import notification and an overview of some of the key changes that you'll see in IPAFFS when you make your import notification. This session will not cover HMRC customs controls, Northern Ireland arrangements, or border force information. So here is some clarity of what high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin can include. So high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin via the EU in relation to the new CHED D import notification includes, but is not limited to, the following food groups. We have peanuts, we have dried grapes, and we have herbs such as coriander and basil. And it's very important to realize and take note that the risk is determined by the commodity type and country of origin in addition to the food group. Now, for further clarity, here are some definitions. So we control food not of animal origin by commodity and country under the Great Britain regulation of 2019, number 1793. And we refer to food controlled under this regulation as high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin, abbreviated to be HRFNAO. So any high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin that is imported into the EU, placed on the EU market and re-exported to Great Britain will be subject to control. And any high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin that is imported into the EU and subject to further processing will in most cases fall out of scope of this regulation if it is re-exported to Great Britain. Now, all of this is being introduced due to the new border target operating model. The UK government published the final border target operating model, the BTOM, which is setting out our new approach to safety and security controls applying to all imports and sanitary and phytosanitary controls applying to imports of live animals, germinal products, animal products, plants and plant products at the border. It has been developed following extensive engagement with the border industry and businesses across the UK. And it also incorporates feedback from the draft border target operating model, which was published in April 2023. Now, some of the key changes from the 31st of January 2024 that apply to high-risk food and feeds of non-animal origin that are imported into Great Britain via EU and EFTA countries include the following. So the goods will continue to require import notification using IPAFFS 1 working day in advance of arrival into a Great Britain port of entry. This includes all seaports and airports. So goods imported via Ireland that are not Northern Ireland qualifying goods will require import notification for the first time. And products listed in Annex 2 of Regulation 2019-1793 will require an export health certificate. So from the 30th of April 2024, for consignments of high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin imported into Great Britain via EU and EFTA countries, will be required to enter Great Britain through a port of entry designed for that product type. These consignments may be subject to checks at the border control post, and the person responsible for the consignment in Great Britain will be informed if this is the case. The Common Health Entry Document for import notifications, also known as the CHED. So the person/operator responsible for the consignment that is making notifications in IPAFFS for importing high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin into Great Britain via EU and EFTA countries will see some changes to the information required in IPAFFS from the 31st of January 2024. So from the 31st of January 2024, IPAFFS will prompt importers of high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin via EU, EAA and EFTA countries to complete Part 1 of the Common Health Entry Document, also known as a CHED. And you will see some changes to the screens in IPAFFS to support this change. Now, importers making pre-notifications in IPAFFS from non-EU countries for such products already complete Part 1 of the CHED, so there is no change. The introduction of the CHED Part 1 supports the risk-based approach to biosecurity controls being introduced under the Border Target Operating Model and increased digitization of health certificates. Notification of the import of high-risk food and feeds of non-animal origin via EU and EFTA countries must be made 1 working day before the consignment arrives into Great Britain. Now, you will still have access to IPAFFS as you do now, using the existing web page and the same login credentials. And if you have not used IPAFFS before, that you can register and see some of the guidance on the IPAFFS section of our website. And some sections of the CHED Part 1 import notification are identical to the current IMP notification, whilst others are formatted differently or ask for further information. This, however, is information which you should have readily available. And you will also need to know the risk categorization of your goods and whether a health certificate is required where applicable. Previous IMP notifications will still be visible from the your import notifications dashboard page, and these can be amended, for example, to add more documentation, but draft IMP notifications cannot be submitted. The copy as new functionality will only be available for new CHED notifications. So after you make your first CHED notification, you can then copy that as new for future CHED notifications. So I'm now going to show you some of the IPAFFS screens and walk you through the process when making your import notification. So when you first log in on your import notifications dashboard, the first 3 pages of the new CHED, import notification are the same as the current IMP. Notifications raised prior to the 31st of January will still be available for you to view and amend. The copy as new function will be available, as mentioned, after completing your first CHED notification. Now, many sections ask for the same information as now, but some pages are formatted different, and these slides highlight the main changes. Origin of the import. In addition to the country of origin, You are now also asked to supply details of the country from where consigned. And for high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin, the country of origin should be the originating country outside of the EU, and the country from where consigned, the EU/EFTA country. About the consignment. So now the reason for movement question on the current notification is replaced with what is the main reason for importing the consignment? The options here are for our internal market, the options here are internal market or transfer to another country. And the majority of goods will be for internal market. If transfer to is selected, you are then asked to supply further details of the exit border control post. The notification hub. After selecting the origin, commodity type, and purpose of the consignment, the new notification hub appears. From here, you can see which sections of information are required and navigate to these sections. And these pages can be completed in any order, and you can return to this page at any point before submitting your CHED notification. Additional details. This new section asks for further information about what goods are intended for and the temperature. There is an additional question. Will your goods be imported in shipping containers or road travelers? This question defaults to no. If this is applicable, then you should change the answer to yes and enter the container details. Trader addresses. The pages for adding and selecting addresses are similar to current pages, with formatting and terminology slightly amended. Addresses previously used and listed in your address book will still be shown and can be selected without manual entry. Transport details. In addition to the port of entry and arrival date, on the current notification, you are also asked to supply additional transport details. Details about type of transport, identification, and documentation are required. This additional information may be required to support any post-import check requirements. Contact details. The final sections of the notification ask for confirmation of contact details. The first section asks for the details of who to contact should a consignment be chosen for an inspection. It's very important that this information is inputted correctly. Contact address for consignment. Before reviewing your notification, the final section asks for confirmation of the contact address for the consignment. If your company has different branch addresses listed in IPAFFS, these will be shown for you to select the relevant one. Declaration. After reviewing the information you have entered into the CHED import notification, a declaration page appears. The person submitting the declaration is asked to confirm that the statements listed apply and that the information supplied is true and correct. You then submit the notification, which completes the CHED import notification process. And the person submitting the CHED may be contacted by the authorities if any information is supplied incorrectly. So here are just some of the benefits of the CHED import notifications for both traders and the competent authority. So for traders importing high-risk food and feed of non-animal origin via the EU and EFTA and from the rest of the world, they can both now standardize their approach and processes. And for the competent authority, it provides all of the information required together with the health certificate for the competent authority to effectively conduct documentary, identity and physical checks to protect animal and human health and the environment in Great Britain. And it also supports the introduction of digital certification. Customs declarations. So the CHED reference number will continue to be included in the customs declaration. However, from the 30th of April 2024, please make sure that the CHED reference number is provided in the correct format to avoid unnecessary contact with the authorities. And some samples are listed here on this page. We have produced a selection of leaflets and guides that you can download now from the gov.uk website. We will try to put the link to these in the description section of this video so that you can access them. We have guides on export health certificates, import notifications, we have decision trees, composite decision trees, and we also have border control leaflets for products of animal products and also for plant products. And there is also more resources and engagement for engagement. Please do check the gov.uk pages for updates and clear and accessible guidance on the upcoming changes that affect traders. We will try as much as possible to put some of these links in the description of this video for easy access. Thank you so much for watching.